Kia ora and welcome to the first Masterclass webinar for 2018. This is created by the Audience Connection and Creative New Zealand, and today's topic is using the Facebook Pixel for remarketing. My name is Helen Bartle and I'm the Senior Advisor for Audience Development and Capability Building, and I'm pleased to welcome you all to the session today. Hopefully you can hear me loud and clear. Maybe you can just comment in the chat box on the left-hand side to let me know. So today is our first Masterclass series, as I mentioned, and it's part of the wider Optimise video series. And the Audience Connection have invited guest speakers on topics of importance to the New Zealand art sector. And we're absolutely thrilled to have Claire O'Connell on the line, and she's from the Classroom. And Claire has spent the last 12 years working in social media companies, from MySpace to Bebo, and then she moved on to Facebook and Instagram. And in 2015, she started her own company, The Classroom, and has been working with businesses of all sizes to teach them how to get the most out of their social media marketing. I think some of the key things around Facebook advertising that we'll be covering today is that it's become a really important tool in the arts, mostly because of its cost efficiency and obviously its targeting ability. And online channels obviously are contributing more and more to ticket sales and other forms of engagement, and certainly conversion around that engagement. We know, for instance, from the latest Audience Atlas New Zealand study conducted last year, that the New Zealand culture market continues to engage with social media, and that continues to grow, with 84% of New Zealanders saying that they engage with social media in a typical week, compared to 78% in 2014. We also know from the Audience Connections Optimizer online benchmarking program that 31 out of 38 participant organizations paid for Facebook promotion, and 46% of Facebook page reach was attributable to paid posts, and that's obviously only going to increase. So Facebook Pixel, for those of you who don't know, is a piece of code that's embedded into your website and tracks various stats using cookies, and then the Pixel assists three functions: tracking conversions, optimizing your ads, and creating audiences to retarget with different ads. So we all know that that's important, but how does it work, and how might we apply it to use our own Facebook campaigns as arts organizations? So here to explain more is Claire, and hopefully, Claire, we can hear you. Are you there?
Hello, Helen. Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Fantastic. Yes, I can.
Great.
Yes, wonderful. Great to
Cool.
meet you virtually, and looking forward
Thanks
to this
for the
session.
intro. Great. Okay, hi everyone. I don't need to introduce myself because Helen did such a great job. I recognise some names on the list, so if I've met you before, hello again. If I haven't, then nice to make your virtual acquaintance. So as Helen said, today we're talking about the Facebook Pixel. It's about as exciting as Catherine described it, a piece of HTML code. Some of what we're going to be going over today is a little bit dry, but stick with it, because even though it's not the most exciting subject, it's a super useful and effective tool to have as part of your marketing arsenal. So I will, I should also say there's lots of opportunity to ask questions. So we're going to break in the middle for some questions, and there'll also be questions at the end. I'd really like you to think about, as we're going through today, maybe some real-life scenarios or campaigns that you've got coming up that you'd like to ask about, and I can give you some sort of on-the-spot advice as to how I'd run those campaigns using the Pixel. Also, this is being recorded and put on YouTube, I believe, so I'm going to be live in the system going through things, so you'll be able to refer back to the video and watch how I got there. And also these slides have got screenshots of all the different parts of the Facebook ad system that we'll be going into today, so you should still you should be able to refer back and keep up with what we're doing. Okay, so whenever I'm coming up with a social media strategy, I think about the 3 C's, which are community, content, and campaigns. So community and content is really the social side. That's about building a community, building loyalty and advocacy and telling your story. And that's really the social media side. The third one, campaigns, is much more about actual digital marketing and understanding digital marketing. And the Pixel is a tool within that channel. All of the social platforms, but particularly Facebook and Instagram, have got really sophisticated self-service advertising channels. So you can all run global campaigns if you wanted from the comfort of your own kitchen bench, which is where I'm sitting right now. And the Pixel is a really important part of that. So what is the Pixel? As Helen mentioned, it is a piece of code which is unique to a Facebook advertising account. So every ad account has their own code, and that code is added to your website, and it basically connects up your advertising to your website. What is it used for? So it has three main functions. The first function is it allows you to create audiences of people who have visited your website for advertising and for remarketing purposes. So that is basically once it is added to your website, if the user is still logged into Facebook when they visit your website, then that little pixel will be able to recognize that person's user ID and lump it into a category of that you can target, so your own custom audience. And that, I think, is probably the most useful or effective part of what the Pixel does. The Pixel also allows you to measure actions taken on your website, so important actions such as purchases or newsletter subscriptions or event registration or anything like that. And finally, it also allows you to optimize towards those actions on your website. So what I mean by that is that Facebook and Instagram's advertising is what is known as objective-based advertising. So when you set up a campaign, rather than it just running and doing whatever happens, you tell Facebook at the start what your ultimate goal is. So whether that is video views, event registrations, likes and comments on Facebook, or with the Pixel, being able to optimize to ticket sales or sign-ups or an actual action on the website, and it knows what you're trying to do and it can try and work towards that goal. So I'll talk about that a little bit further down the track. So it's a super useful tool. It's got those three really important functions. So the first thing you need to do is actually get that Pixel on your website. Once that pixel's applied, it only has to go on once. It will sit on the on your website and work in the background forever. So this finding and installing your pixel is a one-time job. So I'm just going to go live. Hopefully this will just work and you'll be able to see my screen. Okay. So, Grace, jump on if you can't see my screen at the moment, but you should be able to see my Facebook news feed right now. So the first thing I want to do is get to your ads manager. So some of you will be really comfortable with going to your ads manager. Some of you may never have been there before because you've boosted posts but you didn't know how to get there, but I'll just show you how. So if you have boosted posts in the past, you'll probably see ads manager sitting in the left-hand side here of your Facebook newsfeed, or you can go up to the top right-hand corner, drop on this little downward arrow, and come down to Manage Ads. Once you're in here, you'll probably only see one ad account. I'm connected to many, so I just choose the ad account that I want to go into. And here we are in Facebook Ads Manager. So there's a lot of functions in here. It shows you all of your current campaigns. It's where all the reporting lives. And it's also where all of the advanced tools and functions live. So if there's one thing that you can remember about this hour that we've got together today, remember the hamburger. So the hamburger is these little three lines in the top left-hand side of Ads Manager. When you click on that hamburger, and come down to where it says All Tools here, you get a whole lot of additional, more advanced marketing tools. And this is where you will find the Pixel. So the Pixel's under this Measure and Report section down here. Cool. So the first time you come in here, you'll need to create a pixel. So it's very simple. Create it, name it. You might want to name that over after your organization. Great. Once the pixel has been created, then it is about installing it. So it will immediately take you to this installation or setup. So a lot of people freak out when they see code or hear about code because they think I'm not a coder or I'm not technical, I won't be able to do it. I personally can't code. I know nothing about coding and I'm not particularly technical, and that is, so just ignore the fact that it's code and just think about it as like a little dot that you need to place on your website. So there are 3 ways to get this installed. If you work with a developer, congratulations, it's really easy. You can just click on this 3rd button down here and email that off to your developer. It will go, your code will go with all of the instructions, and that's all you have to do. If you work with one of the common sort of templated websites, then click on this top one here. Basically, if you work with Shopify or Squarespace or WordPress or Wix or any of these types of websites, then again, you're really lucky because Facebook has step-by-step instructions on how to get that pixel onto your website. So, for example, I use Squarespace. I click on Squarespace and it just says, go to your website, find the admin panel, copy that code. So I just click on that and it tells me in that video exactly where I need to paste it. So for me, using Squarespace, I copied and pasted that code into a box, saved it, and then it was applied to my whole website. So it's really, really simple to get your pixel on your website, and hopefully by the end of today, you guys will all have done that. The 3rd option is if you don't use one of those websites and you don't have a developer, then there are instructions on how to manually install the code yourself. If you Google around, there's quite a lot of instruction on how to do that, but you might need a little bit of coding knowledge. Great, so once that pixel is installed, then you can do all of those 3 functions that we talked about earlier, and as I said, it only requires that to be done once. Okay, so I'm just going to flick back to the slides. Okay, it's just loading. Cool. Right, so the first thing, and probably in my opinion the most useful thing, is using that pixel to create audiences. So Facebook doesn't just have its normal Facebook targeting, it's got 3 different types of audiences. So the first audience is core audiences. So that is based on all the stuff that Facebook knows about people. So there is demographic information in there, and there is also behavioral information, and there is likes and interests. So that's the type of targeting you do if you were trying to find people in New Zealand who were into classical music, or if you wanted to find newly engaged people because you were advertising a wedding venue. So there's lots of really useful targeting within the core audiences, and that's all based on what Facebook knows about people because of the pages they've liked, the groups they belong to, the events they say they're going to, and also the ads that they're clicking on. The second, and that's what we're going to be focusing on today, is custom audiences. So this is about finding the people that already know about you or the people that you know about. And then the third is lookalike, and we're going to get into that also. So a custom audience I like to think of as low-hanging fruit. They already know about you. They're already aware of your business and probably interested in your business. There are 3 different types of custom audience. So the first one is data file or database. So I'm assuming most of you have got a database of either past ticket sales or people in your newsletter or patrons. And custom audiences allow you to upload that database where it is hashed, so it's completely encrypted. that gets sent to your to Facebook server, and where they can find a match of an email address or a phone number, that person's user ID is bundled into an audience that only you can use. So database custom audience is really useful for repeat purchase. The second one is engagement. So that is basically how have people engaged with you on Facebook or Instagram. So if you don't have a database but you've got an active Facebook or Instagram profile, you can create an audience of all the people who have engaged with you on either Facebook or Instagram in the last year. And the third is website, and that's what the pixel allows you to do. So as I mentioned earlier, every time somebody visits your website, while they're also logged into Facebook, then Facebook will recognize that user ID and bundle that user into your retargeting audience. So as I just briefly mentioned, data file custom audiences match on email, phone number and name. Engagement are people who have interacted with you on Facebook or Instagram or your videos or your events. And they're super useful audiences because they are people who are probably interested in you, or they're very interested in you because they've bought tickets or are in your subscriber base. But what we're focusing on today is the website custom audiences. So remarketing, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of remarketing, but it's about advertising to people who have already been on your website. And there's lots of different uses for that, which I'll get into in a minute. The types of audiences that you can create on Facebook are either everybody who's been in your website in the last 6 months. So Facebook only holds that data for 6 months and then it gets dropped off. So everybody who's been on your website in the last 6 months, or people who have visited specific sections. So you might have, you might be the Isaac Theatre Royal in Christchurch and you've got 20 different shows happening that are advertised on your website at the moment. You can create audiences for each of those different shows depending on which URL they've been on your website, and remarket to them, reminding those people to buy tickets to the event. You can also create audiences of people who have visited certain sections but not others, and that is a technique which is often used to reach people who have abandoned their baskets. So some examples of why you'd use this is to remarket to people who have been on your website and ask them to like your page. Using custom audiences to build your page followers generally gets you your cheapest cost per follower because they're interested in your business, they've been on your website, they're in your database, and they're quite likely to want to follow you on social media also. So it's a really good way to build cheap followers. It's also a really good way to encourage people to buy. So this is an example of an art website where I'd been browsing, and about a week later I got this ad saying, time for a second look, here, have 15% off your first purchase. So because they know I'm already interested in their products, they're just giving me a little nudge to come back and remind me to go back and actually purchase something. So it's super useful for driving purchases. And in fact, in many of, actually all of the e-commerce campaigns that I've been involved in, remarketing to website custom audiences with offers gets you super cheap cost per conversions. Really good ROI on remarketing to website visitors. These website custom audiences can be used to target, obviously, but they can also be excluded. You can exclude people who already know about you. So if you're trying to build awareness amongst new audiences, or reach people who don't know about you, then you can exclude people who have already been to your website or exclude people who are already in your database as well. This is often used in ticket driving campaigns by excluding people who have already bought tickets. So you don't want to hammer people who are already coming to your events, so you can exclude them when you're setting up campaigns. Okay, and finally, once you have a custom audience, so in this case, a website custom audience, people who have been visiting your website, then you can create what is known as a lookalike audience. So what happens when you create a lookalike audience is that Facebook scans through 1,000 different data points, like everything it knows about people from age, location, other pages that it's liked, types of phone they use, all sorts of things, and it finds the people who are most similar to your current customers. So if you've got a database of people who come to your events every year, then you can tell Facebook, go out and find the people in New Zealand who are most similar to these people. And you have your own audience of lookalikes. So lookalike audiences are really about growing your business, finding new customers who are similar to your current customers, and finding new customers who may not know about you. And custom audiences, so website custom audiences, are about talking to people who already know about you. So I think of the custom audience as people who know, and lookalike audiences as a way to grow. So know audiences and grow audiences. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to quickly show you how to create these pixel audiences, and then we'll stop for a wee question break now if anyone has them, now that you've got the theory, and then after the break I will jump in and actually show you how to create these audiences, which are super simple. So does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, is anyone actually currently using the Facebook Pixel? It'd be interesting to hear from anyone who's on the call to hear what they're currently doing. Would anybody be brave enough to put themselves forward?
I checked actually, I had the list of businesses and I looked at all of your websites, and some of you have got it installed already, and then a lot of you don't. But a lot of people have it installed because it's easy to get it installed, but then actually don't know how to then go about using it. Oh, yep, great. Luke's using it.
Great. Oh, fantastic. So Luke is from Q Theatre. So he's used the Pixel for major campaigns like, obviously, briefs. And then Ashley David is from New Zealand Dance Company. So she's saying across my website, but not for a specific event. And she'd like to do so for the national tour coming up in May. Oh, that's great. Fantastic.
Okay, cool. Awesome. So shall I just, I'll just jump on and go through how to actually create them. And then think about your questions and we can answer them all at the end. But as I said, super simple. Once you've got that pixel installed, right, I need to share my screen again. Let me just go back on. Okay, so once that pixel is installed, hopefully you can see my screen. I'm just going to jump back into my own account. Once that pixel's on your website, then you can go about and create these audiences. So again, what you want to do is come back to the Hamburger. That's where all the great stuff lives. Jump on to this Audiences tab. And this is where you can create and save all types of different audiences for future use. Once you've created audiences in here, then they appear when you go to boost posts, and they also just appear for all of your other advertising campaigns. So you go to this blue button and go create an audience, and it is a custom audience because it's people who already know about you. Cool. So you can see from these custom audiences, you have your customer file, you have your engagement down here. Apps is for your mobile apps, if anyone has mobile apps, and offline activity is something that I'll get into later, but it's based on offline sales. But what we are going to look at today is this second one down here, which is website traffic. Okay, cool. So the first one that comes up is all website visitors, and the maximum time you can have that for is 180 days or 6 months. So you might go, okay, I just want to build an audience of people who have been on my website in the last 6 months. So just name it something that you can remember. You're the only person who will see that. And you press create audience. And Facebook will go through and populate it. Sometimes that takes about 5 minutes, sometimes that takes about 30 minutes to come through. And it will just keep on growing as people visit your website over the next 6 months. And it continuously updates as well. So, you know, once 6 months has passed, the really old users will drop off, but the new users will be added. So you don't need to keep on coming back and recreating those audiences. The second one, so again, come back to custom audience and website traffic, and you can just choose this little downward arrow here and go people who have visited specific web pages. So there's two ways to do this. You can see here URL contains or URL equals are the two that I mainly use. So equals would be when you actually copy and paste a specific URL. So I'm just going to go to QZeta. My internet's going a little bit slow. Let's say body double. So I can copy and paste the body double URL. Command C, come back here, go URL equals that, and then I would call that my body double audience. So it's really, really easy. Anyone can do that. You just copy and paste the URL, and then you've got your body double 6-month audience. I am a terrible typist. Cool. Or say if you didn't want to add a specific URL because there was a whole category of different shows, for example. Maybe you just wanted to know all the people who had been at any URL that included the word show. So you can go people who have visited specific web pages, URL contains the word show. So maybe the URL on your website has show before any of the show names, and you would just say show 6 months. You might want to know all the people who are adding tickets to a cart. In that case, you might be as simple as saying URL contains the word cart. And then anyone who's visited the shopping cart will come in there. So website custom audiences are super simple to create once you have got the pixel on the site. The second part here was obviously lookalike audiences. So once you have created a custom audience and you've got a base of your customers to work from, then you can create a lookalike, which is about finding similar people to your current customers. So that is the second one down here when you go to create audience. So create a lookalike audience. You can create a lookalike from your page. So even just today, go away and create a lookalike audience of people who liked your page. If you haven't set up any custom audiences yet. But I'm going to create one. This is on my own website. So I've got a book tickets page, and I've got a website custom audience of anyone who's been to the book tickets page on the last 180 days. So I just choose that as the source audience. You have to put in a country because obviously people in different countries like different pages and attend different events. So you have to choose the country where that source audience is from. And then you get to say to Facebook, like, how similar do you want this audience to be? So it's either the top 1% all the way down to the top 10% of people living in New Zealand. So you can see that the top 1% of people is, it's always going to be around 33,000 because there's about 3.3 million people using Facebook and Instagram in New Zealand. And if you go to the top 2%, that becomes 66, 99, etc. So obviously the top 1% are people who are really similar to your current customers. The further you get away, the less similar they get. What I generally tend to find with lookalikes in New Zealand is that 1% is really effective, 2% usually pretty effective, 3% pretty effective. After that, the return drops off quite significantly. It might be different in your case, but in most of the testing I've done, I would keep it to the top 3% if you're looking to grow your business. So you just choose how similar you want that audience to be. If you're a really small business or quite a niche offering, then you probably, the more similar, the better. And then you create, I've probably created that one again, so I'll get an error message. Yeah, so I've already got that, so it's saying don't create a duplicate, but for most of you that will just go through and it will get this populating symbol again until it has come to, gone through and scanned all of the data and come up with the most similar people. Okay, so I'm just going to switch back to my slides. Okay, I'm just going to answer a couple of questions here. So does the pixel backdate 6 months? Yes, it does, Chloe. So once it's on, it will only pick up visitors from the date that it's installed. But, I'll just read this out in case everyone can't read this. But Chloe has asked, does the pixel backdate 6 months, or does it only pick up visitors from when it's installed? So it will only pick up visitors from when it's installed, but you don't have to have created those audiences on the date that it's installed. So say if I installed the pixel on my website 3 months ago, but I didn't create any audiences, I could then go on today and say, I want to find all the people who have been on the show page of my website in the last 3 months, and Facebook can go back through that data and create that website audience for you. So it can only pick up those, can only recognize users once the pixel's on, which is why it's really important to just get the pixel on straight away. Whether you want to use it now or if you're not going to use it until Christmas time, just get it on there, because once it's on, that will give you access to creating those audiences. Second, Francesca, can the pixel pick up website visitors who have clicked on a link to go to an external ticketing site? Yes, it can. So this is a little bit more technical though. So I understand in your industry it's actually one of the tricky things is that tickets are bought on third-party sites. So I have actually worked with a couple of instances where we have managed to get, I think it was either Ticketmaster or Ticketek, to agree to getting the pixel on our ticketing pages of their site. So, but I don't think they like doing that. I think it's something that you'd need to negotiate with them, and I'm not sure, I wasn't involved in the negotiation, so I don't know what the special circumstances were that allowed us to do that. But we have got the pixel on a third-party site before. You can put the pixel on Eventbrite, so if anyone uses Eventbrite, there is a direct integration where you can get your pixel onto Eventbrite for your own pages. So what were we talking about? Okay, yeah, so Francesca asked, can you set it up so that you can create an audience of people who have clicked on a button? You can. It just requires some additional code, essentially. So I will send that through. There's a part of the website called the developers website called developers.facebook.com, and they've got instructions on how to install pieces of code into buttons, which allows you to track and create audiences from that. Yes, okay, so the slides are back to the beginning. Let me just scoot through. Cool. So we've created the audiences, answered a couple of questions. Keep your questions coming because we've lost those last ones. So I'm going to jump on now to these next two bits, and then I'll come back to the questions. So the pixel does creating those audiences for remarketing, which is super useful. It also allows you to track conversions. So a conversion is basically something on your site which is valuable for you to measure. So that could be people adding to cart, it could be buying tickets, it could be clicking on a book tickets button which is going to take you out to a website, or it could even be looking at specific show pages. So there are two different ways to do this. The first way is called using an event code, and it's basically just copying and pasting additional pieces of code into the right page of the website. That's the more difficult way to do it. If you've got a developer, it will be really easy for them, and they'll do it straight away. It can be more difficult for us lay people and technical people. So what I'm going to show you is how to create a custom conversion, which is basically the same thing, but it's just a lot easier. It doesn't require pasting codes into parts of your website. So to create a custom conversion, again, I'm going to go back to screen share. This might just take a couple of seconds because I have to load it again. Cool. Okay. So again, you go back to your Hamburger. As I said, you'll remember the Hamburger after today. It's in the measuring reporting section, and it is called custom conversions. So what I'd do is I'd go and I'd identify all of the most useful pages on your website, or the pages that you want to track the results of, and come in here and you can just create what is known as a custom conversion. So let's go to Q Theatre again. Let's say that you want to track the people who have got to the patrons section, because maybe you're running a patrons campaign. So all I do is copy and paste that URL again, create a custom conversion. URL contains, or equals in this case, patrons. I'm going to call that patron page. This basically just tells Facebook what type of conversion it is, so just choose the one which most matches. So I'm going to say it's some kind of lead. And if you have a value, so say if everything that you're selling has the same monetary value, then you can put the value in there and you'll get a return on investment in your report as well. And then you press create. So it's really simple. It's the same rules as when you're creating the audiences, but you just copy and paste the URLs to create those conversions. So I'd recommend you go through your site and work out what the pages are which are important, which show that that audience is of value to you, and go through and just create those conversions now. So the conversions do two things. I'm just going to go back to slides. They allow you to track. There you go, there are all the screenshots for you, in reporting. So when you go to your reports, you can do what is known as a custom report, which allows you to choose those conversions and just look at the results for them. So you can see here in this example I've created a report which has purchase confirmed, which is a custom conversion that I created, and it also tells me my cost per purchase confirmed. So for that campaign, how much did it cost me to sell a ticket overall? Once you click into that campaign, you can then also look at all the different audiences that you targeted and work out which audience converted the most and how much did it cost you per ticket conversion. If you've got a developer on hand, they can actually pass back through dollar values as well. So this was one campaign that I worked on where the developer added dynamic dollar values essentially that got passed back when everybody bought a ticket. And you can see that not only did it give you your cost per purchase, but it also gave you the conversion value, which allowed you to get a return on ad spend, both for campaign and for each particular audience as well. So that information on how to do that is in the follow-up material. So it's there for reporting, and it is also there for, this is a slide that just shows you how to create those custom reports. There's a lot of stuff that you can report on in the custom reports, but the one that you want to look at, the most important stuff when you've got the conversions set up, are these website conversions. And you can choose all of the custom conversions that you've created and find out how much it costs to get those conversions as well. One little caveat that I'll put there, though, is that it doesn't pick up every conversion because it only picks up those conversions if somebody is also logged into Facebook at the same time. Similar to when, when it creates the audience, somebody has to be logged into Facebook. So it doesn't get every conversion. It's not 100% accurate, but it usually gives you a pretty good guide as to what audiences are effective for you. The third and final thing that this pixel allows you to do is to optimize towards conversions. So again, I'll just go over it quickly, but I said at the start that Facebook is trying to create a system which is win-win. So if you're getting cheap cost per results, you'll spend more money. So that gets more money, you get more results, everybody's happy. So that's why it makes you tell it up the front when you create a campaign, what is your ultimate marketing goal there? And then it tries to optimize towards that goal. So when you're setting up a campaign, once you've got the conversion set up, you can optimize towards conversions. I am going to quickly go back to screen share and show you how to do this live. It might make a little bit more sense. Okay, so when you're in Ads Manager and you create a campaign, sorry, I'm got slow internet at my house. You press that green Create button and Facebook says, very first thing it says is, what is your marketing objective? So as you can see, it could just be website traffic, it can be engagement, which includes page likes or event responses, video views, reach, there's all sorts of things here. But what we're going to do today is conversions. So once I've chosen conversions, I will name my campaign, really important. So I'm just going to say April ticketing campaign. Just ignore my spelling mistakes. Cool, and then when you press continue, the first thing it does is say, what conversion do you want to work towards? So any of those conversions that I've set up, I can choose as my ultimate goal. So one very important thing to note here is while it seems like a logical thing to do here would be to optimize towards thank you for purchasing a ticket, that just kind of makes sense. However, because Facebook needs data to be able to make those decisions. So when it optimizes towards those goals, it looks at the type of people who are buying tickets and then tries to show your ads to more people like them who are likely to also buy tickets. So it's using that user data to try and make better decisions. So if you choose thank you for purchasing tickets, but you're only selling sort of 10 tickets a week or 5 tickets a week, there's not enough data for Facebook to be able to make good decisions there. So often it just stops delivering or it just doesn't make good decisions. So the best thing to do here is to optimize towards something a little bit further up the funnel, like add to cart, or one of those things which indicates that these people are the right audience, but there's more volume than the thanks for purchasing a ticket. So that's what I do in most cases. If you are in the fortunate position where you are selling 100 tickets a week or a fortnight, then there's probably enough data there for Facebook to be able to optimize correctly. But for me, I sell 16 tickets at a time, so I optimize further up the chain. Cool. Once you do that, then you follow these step-by-steps on the left-hand side and just create your campaign. What you'll notice is that you have custom audiences. It's one of the very first things that you can use. So this is where you can include your website custom audiences. So there we go. There's my body double one I just created. Or if you wanted to exclude them from something else, then this is where I'd exclude. So I'm going to exclude my website traffic, but I'm going to target everyone who's into classical music and similar things. So that is where the custom audiences get put into effect. Okay, let me just switch back. I'm just going to go through 2 quick scenarios and then I'll answer these questions. Thank you for sending questions in. This looks good. Okay, objective-based advertising. Right, okay, so a couple of scenarios. Facebook has a portal called facebook.com/business, and in there is a whole lot of success stories or case studies. This was one that I thought was quite an interesting use of custom audiences. So this was the Portland Trailblazers, basketball slightly different from the arts, but they're also selling tickets. And they have their regular season ticket holders and the people who come to a lot of games, that they really wanted to boost up people who had, who might just come to one game. They wanted to reach more people for those single ticket holders. So they ran a campaign where they got $21 back for every dollar spent. They did this by, I've missed the slide off in this one, damn. But they did this by basically using their database and taking a group of people from the last season who had only bought one ticket. They uploaded that into Facebook. They created a lookalike audience, so they found all the really similar people who might not come all the time but might be interested in coming once. They ran a targeted campaign to those lookalikes. They tracked it with the pixel so that they could track their conversions. And then they also remarketed, so they retargeted to all of the people who had been on the site during the length of that campaign with a little offer to buy. So they got $21 back for every dollar that they spent. Sorry, these are the old, looks like I've given the old slides that I hadn't finished. This one here was actually Auckland City Limits, which the first one which I was involved in, and the way that we ran this campaign was we got the pixel on the website. We created a conversion for the book tickets page. So when we ran the campaign, we optimized towards that book tickets page. In the first phase of targeting, we looked at ticket buyers from the last year, which was actually from the Big Day Out. So we remarketed to people who had been to the Big Day Out. We created lookalikes of people who had bought tickets to the Big Day Out. And we also used Facebook targeting to target people who liked festivals and live music and some of the specific bands that were playing, like The National and Pearl Jam. While that campaign was going, obviously the pixel was on the website building up an audience of website visitors, which we used in phase 2 for remarketing. So we remarketed to people who had not bought tickets yet, reminding them to buy and giving them little tasters and reasons to come along and buy tickets. Okay, so we've got 7 minutes. I'm going to jump to some questions. Okay, do you recommend remarketing to both your audience on your performance page and also the third-party ticketing page? Don't want to overwhelm with too much remarketing to the same people. Yes. So I get it. So if you've got the pixel on the third-party ticketing page, I get it. So I mean, it depends on what your sort of user journey is like. If people are likely to not go to your website before they go to the third-party ticketing page, they could be, separate audiences. If people have to go through your website before they go to the third party, then I'd just do my own website. But if they're likely to potentially be separate audiences, then I would remarket to both, but you can just combine them into one audience. So when you set up your targeting, you'd be like, I want to target people who have been to my site and to this third-party ticketing page, and I will run a short campaign. And what you do there is you just monitor your frequency. So in the reporting, and if we have time before this finishes, I'll show you where, but there's a little drop-down. There's a button that says performance, and if you click it, there's a drop-down, and the second one down is called delivery. Delivery allows you to track your frequency, so you can see if somebody's seen your ad 6 times on average. And if they've seen it 6 times, then stop that campaign, you're overwhelming them. A good number of times for somebody to see your ad is around 3 or 4 on Facebook. So once you've gone over 3 or 4, you've hammered them too much, and you should probably stop the campaign or just give it a rest for a couple of weeks or change the creative. Hopefully that answered your question. Okay, question from Viv Stone at McCann. Process for creating customized digital marketing campaigns that we've been talked through today for FB is the same on Insta. And if not, what are some of the things on Insta to look out for? Yes, so it is. So Facebook obviously owns Instagram. So they've made things really easy by combining the advertising platforms. So when you set up a campaign to run through the Facebook Ads Manager, it generally runs across Instagram as well. The pixel used is exactly the same. There are some cases when it won't run across Instagram, and that is certain formats don't work on Instagram, like an event doesn't work on Instagram. But any link click or buy tickets or shop now does work on Instagram, so exactly the same process. If you only want to advertise on Instagram and you want to shut Facebook out of it, then when you go through that process of setting up a campaign, you know how when I got to the, I chose the conversion and then I got to the audiences bit, the next section under there is called placements, and it defaults to automatic placements, and automatic placements includes Instagram. You can edit that and take off all the other Facebook and Facebook Messenger and only go on Instagram. But essentially it's the same thing. So hopefully that has answered your question, Viv. Our social media audience is far more engaged on Instagram than Facebook. And that is really common for a couple of reasons. Instagram audiences are just generally more engaged anyway. I think part of that is the fact that Facebook has that virality built into it, whereas if you like or comment on a business page, some of your friends will see that, and a lot of people don't actually like that, so they hold back their engagement because they don't want other people to see it, whereas that's not really as visible on Instagram. So people are much more likely to engage on Instagram. The other thing is that Instagram is a beautiful visual creative platform, and you're a lovely creative industry, and that is where people prefer to follow the arts and creative industries is on Instagram. So I'm not surprised that they're more engaged on Instagram than Facebook. What I would do is you can create an audience. So in those custom audiences, I think it's the bottom one is engagement, and one of those engagement custom audiences are people who have engaged with our Instagram profile. So you can capture all the people who are engaging with you and use them to remarket if you want to. Send them a message when you've got new exhibitions coming up. Okay, do you need to be able to perform a transaction on the page you create a custom conversion for? No, not at all. It might just be a page that you want to measure for any reason. So I've got conversions on just in my own, the classroom, like I've got a conversion for people who go to the course overview page, who go to the contact us page, who go to my corporate training page. So there's a whole lot of reasons why you might want to track something, and it doesn't have to be a transaction at all. Okay, I think that is the last question. Has anyone got any more? No? Okay, I'll just wrap up. So number one, Pixel is super easy to install, and you should just get it on there today. Once you've got it on there, go and create some custom conversions, because they're also really easy to create. Play around with your website custom audiences today. You can create and delete them. None of that is going to cost you any money until you decide to actually run a campaign, and those audiences will be there for using. So from the remarketing perspective, super useful for driving any kind of ticket sales, sending out reminders that an event is happening. It's also really useful for just announcements to people who already know about you. So you might have a new exhibition or a new show launched, and you've only got a small budget, but you really want to reach the right people, and so you can remarket to an audience of 2,000 people who have been on your website in the last 6 months. That might cost you about $20, and you'll reach most of them. And let them know about your new shows. It's also really good to remarket with a page like ad if you're looking to build your followers. And as I said, you can exclude them also. Cool. I am done unless there's any more questions.
Thank you so much, Claire. That's fantastic. I think if anyone has a question for Claire after the session today, feel free to let us know either by emailing me or Grace Sinclair, and we'll be happy to pass that on if you would be willing to receive any follow-up, Claire. That's been so incredibly helpful. Thank you. So everyone today on the line, if you haven't installed the Facebook Pixel, go ahead and do so. I think that's the major takeaway, because once it's on, then you're able to make use of it as and when. So thank you so much. It's been incredibly practical, and we have really appreciated you being able to share your screen with us and actually walk us through it. It's been great. Thank you. So yeah, I'd just like to say thank you all for attending, and the next webinar, the next masterclass is actually in just over a couple of months' time. It's the 16th of May. It's also a Wednesday, 10:30 a.m., and that's with Tom Butlin from Houdini Search Marketing. So please all come back and join us again for these masterclass series, which I think are really pushing us ahead in our field and really helping us. And thanks again. And do take a moment or two to let us know what you thought of the session today. But for now, bye to all, and ka kite anō.
Thank you very much for having me. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.